Happy Friday, everybody, and welcome to the Rotary Club of Brentwood, and welcome back to winter from summer yesterday. We will start today. We're starting right on time, as you see, because the Martin Center needs to use this room immediately after our meeting for an art show. So we will start with an invocation by David Carden, and the pledge and four-way test will be led by Alan Treadway.
Good morning. Let's pray. As we gather today as Rotarians, we reflect on our objectives for our community and the world. Peace, tranquility, working together for a better future for our families and friends. We acknowledge our many freedoms and affirm our commitment to spreading those freedoms throughout the world. Freedom from hunger and sickness and oppression. The freedom to choose our own destinies, and we reaffirm our commitment to the four-way test, to speak the truth, to be fair to all, to build goodwill and better friendships, and to live beneficial lives. As we have seen a glimpse of spring, we look ahead with optimism, renewed energy, and a commitment to serve our community and the world. We pray for guidance and help in these commitments. Amen.
Okay, if you would join me in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which it stands, nation of God, indivisible, liberty, justice for all. And now for the four-way test. First, second, third, and fourth.
Now I'll ask our club secretary, Steve Hammers, to introduce guests and visiting Rotarians.
All right, we've got 4 guests today. The first one will be introduced by Julie.
Hello, this is my husband, Todd Porter. One of his best friends is the brothers to Todd, the speaker. So he thought it'd be an interesting time to come to Rotary, and obviously a lot of you all know him. Actually, Jennifer.
Thank you. Glad to have you. Jennifer Bourne has a guest that we will be seeing more regularly here shortly.
You met Stephen Hall. He's a friend of mine, Health Market. He has an application in for membership, so you will come say hello. Hopefully you'll be seeing him a lot more and getting to know him better. He's super great. So
We're glad you're super great. We have a very special guest that Michael Hyman brought.
Thank you very much. As some of you remember, I have daughters. It turns out that my older daughter also has a daughter. I'm very pleased to have with me today my granddaughter, Natalie. Natalie is a hero in our family. She's the one that was with her grandmother in Washington, D.C. at Thanksgiving when Susan had to have emergency surgery. So Natalie stepped up with a knife and took care of everything. She is our family hero this year. She's visiting with us to finish up that granddaughter trip. They're doing the shopping portion now, but I got her for lunch at least. So I'm very glad to have her here. Natalie is also a Paul Harris Fellow, so she's at home in the Rotary Club. So please welcome Natalie Emmerich.
Glad to have you. And Jane's got a guest today.
Thank you. I'm not sure if everybody is aware, but railroads sometimes carry hazardous materials.
Really?
And we work for CSX, not Norfolk Southern. I brought with me today Ryan Godsey, who is CSX's local manager of hazardous materials. I might be a little biased, but I've worked over my 20-some years with the company a whole lot with our hazmat team, and I think they are world class. I think they are the best in the industry. And so please welcome Ryan Godsey.
Glad to have you, Ryan. That's it for today.
Awesome. Now Drew Rogers is going to lead us in Happy Bucks.
Very good. I know we've got to
Happy.
have some people that are happy. We've had 80-degree weather. We now have 80 degrees and sunny weather, and now we have mid-40s and rainy. But the 80-degree and sunny weather is something to be happy about. I'm sure that we have some folks that are happy. I actually started this by putting $5 in because you're going to hear more about this, and there are some flyers on your table about what we're going to be doing in March around new members. But I'm just happy that we have members that have as much energy as they do around evangelizing what we do here every week in the Rotary Club. People like Zach Benner and Laura Troop and others within our club that have done a tremendous amount to make sure that March, which is a membership drive, is going to be as successful as possible. So I'm very happy about that. And so I put $5 in there. So I didn't try to get this for free. Jeff.
I'm putting in $1 to let everybody know that soon we will be announcing openings for RILA, Rotary Youth Leadership Awards, that will take place this summer for high school students. A great experience. We had, I think, 3 last year. We'd like to do more. We also have Youth Exchange that is opening up this year for the first time since COVID. And those deadlines I'm uncertain of right now, but we'll know more about it and we'll get it into the newsletter coming up. But think about high school students you might know that would be good candidates.
Thank you, Jeff. Who else do we have that's happy? Alan, do you want to say anything about your basketball program?
Not really, but what about those Ole Miss Rebels, defending national champions in baseball, undefeated this year?
Congratulations. Good luck finding a coach for your basketball team.
And I'm here with a smile on my face today. I was in this room yesterday having my taxes done, and I'm smiling today. So thank you very much.
You're an inspiration to all of us. I hope that others are in the same boat. Who else is happy? Laura.
I'm putting $5 in. I'm very happy that my daughter was in the musical Footloose. Yesterday was opening night at Brentwood High. So if you get a chance, go out and see Footloose. Good, you'll love it. There are only a few seats left, so don't miss it.
It was amazing. There you go. Go out and check that out. Anybody else happy? All right. President
Awesome.
Jane. turn it back to
Thank you. Now we're going to have a Rotary Minute about the Rotary Youth Exchange Program, and Linus is going to do that for us.
Thank you very much, Jane. So Rotary sponsors a lot of great stuff, a lot of great programs. One of the great programs that it does sponsor is a foreign exchange program. And if you've never heard about the program, this is your Rotary Minute. The Rotary Youth Exchange Program is actually 3 different programs. First of all, it is a short-term program. The short-term program is we send a local student overseas for 3 to 4 weeks to go live with a family in a foreign country. And then they come back with one of the kids from that family to live here for 3 to 4 weeks. That happens over the summer. That's a fantastic program. We've sponsored people to go through that before. The best and most recent example is Gracie Napier, Donna's granddaughter. She had a great time. She's talked to our club about that. And so if you're talking to high school students, the parents of high school students locally who are interested in that kind of thing over the summer, it's a tremendous program, and it is open up again for this summer. But applications have to be in within the next couple of weeks, right? Applications have to be in the next couple of weeks. So if you know somebody who's a candidate for that, let me know. We'll figure out how to get them applied for the program. There's also a long-term program where we send somebody local overseas for a whole academic year. That's a long time. but they get fully immersed in the culture. They live with 2 or 3 or 4 host families overseas. It's a relatively inexpensive way for somebody to really get themselves immersed in another culture. It's not for everybody, but for the kids that really want to do this, it's a tremendous program. It's administered through Rotary. The district plays a big role in that. But long-term exchange. Again, as Jeff mentioned earlier, that program is open again. We are recruiting students for the fall, but again, we've got to have applications within the next couple of weeks. The third program is long-term inbound. That means that students from overseas come over here for a full academic year. It's a tremendous program. They get a chance to experience American culture. The State Department promotes that program because they feel like, and I think they're right, that if young people come over here and spend a full academic year in the United States at a local high school, make friends, see the United States, they're gonna have positive feelings when they go back home, and they're gonna spread those positive feelings around. And so it's another tremendous thing that Rotary does, is sponsors inbound people. So what do I need from you today? How is it that you can help? First of all, talk to the families of high school students, talk to the high school students themselves. If they're candidates for an exchange and need more information, let Beth Dormany or I know. We're happy to talk about the program, let them have more information, get you applications, get you more information. The deadline is March 15th, right? So for this summer, this fall's academic year, March 15th is when we need folks to apply. The other thing that you can help us do is for the long-term inbound program, where students are coming to spend an academic year here, right? We need host families. So if you know of a family that is kind of adventurous and interested in hosting for a few months a student from overseas to help enrich the whole family experience, get a little bit of the overseas culture in their own families, help us with that. There's no deadline for that. We're always looking for host families in the local area because we get a lot of inbound exchange students. A lot of overseas students want to spend an academic year in the United States, a very desirable location. So help us that way. Appreciate your attention today. Rotary Youth Exchange is a great program. And there you go.
Now I'm going to take just a minute to show you all some photos from last Friday. Several of us, actually 12, which is, a really good showing from our club, I think, went to Morning Point of Brentwood. And because it was National Act of Kindness Day, Jody came up with the idea of hosting an ice cream social at Morning Point, and it was so fun. So our club has lots of connections to Morning Point. Jordan obviously works there. Alan Treadway's mother is a resident there. She was, believe it or not, she was sweet and cute, and I really enjoyed meeting her. Alan did steal her cookie, but I found her another one. So there you go. Let's see, Harold Fogelberg's granddaughter works there. She was adorable. As soon as we walked in the door, the staff started asking who is Ellie's grandfather. And I was like, what are you even talking about? But everybody loves her. I think the residents had fun. And I think those of us who went, just like we always do when we have a service project, we came away with more than we got. Oh, please. Jordan wants to say something.
Those of you who were able to be there with us, it was an absolute blast. And I cannot tell you how much our residents loved hanging out with you, eating ice cream on a 40-degree day. It doesn't matter. They just love having people in to love on. And I feel like, as always, they usually give more back than what we end up giving. That's why I do what I do. But just thank you.
That was cute. Anyway, so that was really great. Just wanted to make sure that those of you who were not able to join us got to get a little glimpse of how it went. Let's see, Julie, do you want to make a Pancake Day announcement? Microphone.
Okay, so Pancake Day is coming up April 1st. We've had many of you already sign up, but I think there's still a number of you all that haven't. One thing that I would ask, even if you can't show up Friday or Saturday, could you please let us know that as well? That way you won't get a phone call from us asking why you didn't sign up for a shift. That way we will know that you're unavailable, which happened. But if you do need to sign up, there are sheets on the table. You can do it electronically. Jack McCarthy sent out a link. Looking forward to having a fun day. Hopefully it's gonna be warm, and it's gonna be at Brentwood High School this year. So if you have any questions, reach out to Jordan or myself, and our emails are on the bottom of the sheet on the table. And then Jordan had a very nice email yesterday with our contact information as well.
The email reminder is nice for now, but after today, it gets less nice.
Yeah. Next Friday, this won't be nice.
Right. Gets ugly after today. Now Zach Benner is going to talk to us quickly about our membership madness starting next week. You want to come up? Yeah.
All right. Well, I just want to welcome our guests. I hope you're having a good time and learning some good food and seeing what we're all about, and then put an application if you didn't already. So what the membership drive in March is going to be about, it's going to be the beginning, not just the end or just a 1 month thing of the whole year long membership drive. So I invite everyone else to think that we're all responsible for recruiting new members. And so it's not just the membership committee that's responsible for that. So we want to encourage your help. A few things that are going to happen in March is we're going to waive the fee for bringing a guest. So sometimes that can be a little limitation. So you won't have to worry about that. That'll all be covered. We encourage, though, that you bring guests that were potentially going to be members of Rotary. Like when you're thinking about who you want to ask, think about that. We're going to have some prizes for who is going to give the most or bring the most guests. And the first thing we're going to do is whoever brings the most guests will then their name will go into a drawing, and we'll raffle your name out and we'll get some prizes that will be determined. And the second thing is that, so if you do bring a guest and that guest becomes a member, then we'll give you a prize for that as well. And it's pretty good. So we'll tell you about that. So these are two things, kind of a little more incentives and make it a little more fun. So the best thing I'm going to say, it's not bragging when you know it's true. So we are an amazing club and with amazing people. And I think we want to share that with everybody else. I personally believe that the people you know and the people you trust in your life are Rotarians. They just don't know it yet. And so you can have the best thing in the world, but if no one knows it, then it doesn't really do any good, right? And I think when I think of Rotary, before I joined, I think it's a very esoteric club. I can tell you that I saw that symbol throughout my life when I go into a small town, and every time when I go to my hometown, I saw that symbol. Couldn't tell you what it meant though. So let's do a good job of kind of branding our name, and I really think service above self is going to be our big initiative, where we're going to be using that and out and about. So when you're at the store, could be a random person on the street you happen to meet it. I mean, we're in the South, so you can learn more about a person in a grocery line than you ever thought possible. So invite them to a Friday and say, hey, we welcome you. We want you to be a part of what we're doing here. A few other things that we're going to ask is that we want greeters definitely for the month of March. So we'll have the entrances in the front and there and just welcoming people. The one thing we want to have a culture of is, and we hope the guests that came today are feeling this way, is that think of the theme song from Cheers. We're always glad you came and everybody knows your name, right? So I'm sure you've probably been to an event before and you walked in and you didn't know anybody there and you felt kind of like a fish out of water. Let's not make sure that when people come and they're visitors, let's make sure they don't have that experience. So we want people to welcome them. So we'd love you to be a visitor or a greeter, I should say. So just come talk to me or after this, or send me an email and we can get you doing that. And lastly, and a few other things, we want to encourage you to post things on social media. So Miss Laura made an amazing flyer today. We're going to get that and some other things sent out to you guys so you can post it. So share this stuff. Again, we want to let people know what we're about and hopefully they can be a part of all the fun things. And with that, I think I'm done. Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. We do have a great energetic membership committee, so let's all please rally around them and help bring some folks in. Finally, don't forget Waverly on March 4th. And at this point, I'm going to ask our esteemed mayor and club member, Ray Little, to come and introduce our speakers for today.
Thank you. And before I get started introducing our esteemed guest today, I wanted to welcome Ryan again, but as mayor of the city of Brentwood, and I think I could speak for the director of Williamson County Emergency Management, we hope you suffer from a lack of work in our community. So exactly. Yeah, it's a training, not an accident. So both of these individuals I've had the opportunity to work with, and I'd consider them friends. And I'm going to go through their biographies because I always think that when you introduce someone, their biography is important because a lot of times you find connections. And both are great servants with servant hearts. And I think that's what you want in leadership roles, especially when you serve either as a business person or in a community. Jill Burgin, a native Tennessean, was raised in Memphis, moved to Williamson County in 1991. She's lived in Brentwood since 2000. She attended UT Knoxville and graduated from the University of Memphis with a degree in journalism. After a career writing and editing for local newspapers, Jill was elected in 2011 to the Brentwood City Commission and was reelected in 2015, serving 2 terms as vice mayor and 1 term as mayor, rolling off the board in 2019. She now works for Williamson County government as the external affairs officer for the county's emergency management agency, responsible for media contact and preparedness education. She's the mother of 3 grown sons who attended public school in Brentwood from kindergarten through high school graduation. Her twins graduated from the University of Tennessee at Knoxville in 2019, and her youngest is a freshman there now. I also have had the pleasure of graduating with her in the Citizens Police Academy in Brentwood. We did many wonderful things serving together as commissioners, and she was what you always want. She always sought to do what she thought was best for Brentwood. She always did it in a positive way. She always did it with regard to those who worked alongside her. She always showed kindness. We were blessed to be part of Smith Park, the police headquarters. In fact, she was the mayor when we really got serious about the police headquarters, and she made the trip to see all the other police headquarters, especially in the Midwest, to give us an idea of how we wanted to look. And I could go on and on and on of the things that I was blessed to be able to work alongside her to accomplish, which I think are for the betterment of Brentwood. And like I said, she just truly has a servant's heart. Todd Horton was named the director of the Williamson County Emergency Management Agency in 2019, after more than 30 years with the Franklin Fire Department, which my son-in-law is with the Franklin Fire Department, Brad Engel. Horton is a lifelong Williamson County resident who began his firefighting career just after graduating from Franklin High School. He started as a volunteer firefighter for the Williamson County Rescue Squad, which his father, Donnie Horton, helped found. He served as a firefighter for the city of Brentwood and was hired by the Franklin Fire Department in 1989 by Chief Mark Rigsby. Todd worked his way through the ranks, serving as a firefighter, engineer, lieutenant captain, assistant chief, and deputy chief of administration and emergency management. As EMA director, Horton managed the county's COVID-19 response, as Williamson County saw the first active case in the state. He also oversees the county's disaster plan, response, and recovery operations. Todd and his wife, Pam, live in Thompson Station. They have 2 daughters, a son-in-law, and a granddaughter. Now, I'm going to touch on the personal. I didn't work with Todd for as many years as I have with Jill. But when COVID hit, I teased, there were a lot of weeks that I was on Zoom and phone calls and talked and listened to meetings that Todd and I were a part of more than I did my wife. Because when COVID-19 first hit, we didn't know, is this the new bubonic plague? or what, but we knew people were dying, and we knew people we knew who were dying. And I think you really find out when you're in service, true people with good, true hearts, noble characters, is when you're in the trenches. And we were in the trenches for at least 18 months to 24 months, because every time we would think things were going to settle, a new surge would hit. People you knew passed away. And a lot of the public never really understood. Probably our main goal was to keep our medical system from being so overwhelmed that people were suddenly dying of diseases that they had not died of in 100 years. Because you want to talk about civil unrest is when people would be dying in the parking lots because you can't get them in the hospital. But Todd always very calmly, the statistics, always felt very good about all the information we got. Just impressed and amazed me. And I just wanted you to know that, because I've never told you that face to face, but I really appreciated your work, and especially as a mayor who was trying to do the right thing to protect everybody in my community. So without further ado, I welcome Todd Horton and Jill Burgin.
Good afternoon. I want to thank you all for accepting our request to speak to you today, and certainly thank the mayor for his comments. I can say that I've never been called esteemed before, so I'm feeling quite happy if you still have that basket that you want to pass around. We are blessed to have Jill as part of our team, and I know many of you know Jill and have worked with Jill, and she's a fabulous asset to our system, and we look forward to having her for many years to come. Because the screen is behind me and I can't see it, I'm going to let Jill manage the PowerPoint presentation for me, and I'm going to kind of slide off of these notes that I've taken. And we could literally talk every meeting that you have and consume the entire meeting, but I know that we don't have time for that today. So my remarks today are going to focus on specific initiatives that we're looking to achieve, as well as to talk to you a little bit about the Emergency Management Agency. So oftentimes when we're out and about, it's often asked of us, what is EMA? And then when they start to say emergency medical, and we say no, Emergency Management Agency. And the next question we often get is, well, what is emergency management? And the truth be known that most people understand what the fire service does, what law enforcement does, and what EMS does, because they're in our community every day responding to calls and managing emergencies. But they do not fully understand what emergency management is. And so for emergency management, it is our responsibility to do a coordinated county-wide effort to major emergencies. So think disaster type situations, think East Palestine, Ohio. Those are situations in which it outgrows the ability of emergency services to be able to manage those incidents, and it really requires a whole community approach. That's our responsibility as emergency managers, to coordinate that whole emergency response to ensure that we restore our community as quickly as possible to its pre-disaster condition. And we do that not alone. We do that help of many individuals that we'll talk about. So our vision is a prepared community in which every individual, family, resident, worker, visitor, government entity, and private organization is knowledgeable in and empowered to prepare for, respond to, and recover from disaster. That's our mission. Our agency focuses on 5 emergency management principles. First is mitigation. Mitigation simply is acts to lessen the impact of whatever event may come upon us. Prevention, stopping something before it happens. That's obviously not always the case, but when possible, that's what we want to do. Preparedness, we want to be ready when a disaster happens. And our office spends every day doing nothing but planning. That's all we do every day, all day long. We think up every kind of conceivable scenario that can affect our community and say, are we prepared? Do we have the training? Do we have the equipment? Do we have the resources? Do we have the manpower to be able to successfully overcome whatever challenges we're faced with? And it's amazing that in today's society, there are so many people out there are outthinking us every single day with the horrific acts that are taking place across our communities. Nevertheless, it's our responsibility to do whatever we can to prepare for those when they may occur. We also do response. That's after the disaster happens and we go into action. And our action is not just our action. You'll see that involves many other people that we coordinate with. And then recovery, returning our community to its pre-disaster condition, or at least the closest we possibly can. I mentioned earlier that it's a county-wide effort. That's because the Emergency Management Agency doesn't do anything alone. I have a staff of 20 people. That's the largest staff probably anywhere in Tennessee for emergency management. So we're very blessed as a community, but with 20 people, you certainly can't manage a disaster. So when we talk about a county effort, we're talking about all of county government, all of our municipal governments, our hospital and our health departments, our utility partners, our nonprofit and faith-based organizations, our amateur radio operators, private sector people who definitely can help in times of disaster, state and federal liaisons, and a whole host of other individuals that come together and help manage a disaster. I didn't put a bunch of slides. You've probably seen a picture that was up here of our Emergency Operations Center. I don't really want to talk a lot about our Emergency Operations Center other than to say this. It's located in downtown Franklin. It was built in 2014, and it is designed to withstand all hazards that our community can face. So it's designed even for an F5 direct hit. Now, we've never tested that theory, but they tell us that it will survive. And so you can look at other communities in which they were operating out of emergency operations centers that weren't designed for those hazards. Tuscaloosa, Alabama is a clear example. They actually vacated that site about 10 minutes before the tornado hit. After the tornado hit, the only thing that was left was the front door and a part of the brick wall around the front building. The rest of the center was destroyed. In 2010, during the May flood, which I'm sure you all probably were impacted to some degree from, the Emergency Operations Center and the 911 Center for Williamson County were located in the basement of the old hospital. There was 3 foot of water outside the door that they were trying to keep from entering into that building, as well as they had sewage that was leaking from the pipes that were disconnected, that were coming undone by the flooding that was happening. And so they really were not able to stand up an emergency operations center during that situation. The mayor of Williamson County said that'll no longer happen to us. And he embarked upon this new building, and we're very blessed to have it. My point is that if we're not prepared as a community to be able to manage a disaster, then how can our community survive from that? So we're very blessed here in Williamson County to have that facility. And then we have also our municipal partners that also stand up remote emergency operations center that we work with collectively. So when we take a disaster, we have to break it down into components, just like you do in anything that you're doing. You break it down into modules in which you can manage. And so we use what's called emergency support functions. And each of these functions are 5 different branches that help oversee disaster recovery. So we have our emergency services branch, and they're responsible for firefighting, emergency medical services, search and rescue, environmental response, and law enforcement. And then we have which one is up next? I want to make sure I go the right way. Human needs. Okay, I'm following my chart here. We have our human needs branch. This service, human services for shelter and mass care, public health crisis and intervention support, which is EMS and feeding population and those kinds of things. ESF 11 is food. ESF 16 is animal care and housing. And then we have our emergency support functions with infrastructure branch, and they're responsible for transportation issues, communications issues, infrastructure problems, and energy. And then we have our planning and information branch. Obviously, we have information and planning that comes out of that. We have recovery, we have resource support, and then we have donations and volunteers. So each of these different areas are broken up into a room that seats about 112 people. And the 112 people are made up of representatives from all of those groups that I mentioned earlier. There will be municipal partners, utility partners, Red Cross, other faith-based organizations, all in there together solving problems. Those are the experts. They are the ones that do it every day. We simply bring them into a room and we coordinate the effort so that we're not duplicating responsibilities. Jill has the responsibility of coordinating all the public information officers throughout our communities and all of these different agencies to make sure that the message that we're giving to the community is the right message for them at the right time. And the mayor talked about COVID and the challenges that we faced with COVID. COVID was a situation in where information, as you know, was changing almost by the hour. You can't put anything out in print that people are going to be able to read and absorb. By the time they do, it's already changed. And there was a need for our community, a starving need for them to get information. And so the state health department opened up a hotline. And I don't know why they called it a hotline when you have to wait on hold for an hour in order to speak with somebody. But that's how overwhelmed they were for the state of Tennessee. In Williamson County, we said this is not acceptable. Our community cannot get the answers they need simply by calling a hotline and staying on hold. So we started our own hotline. We're blessed again to have those capabilities. And we brought members from Brentwood, from Franklin, and from other agencies in to help man those hotline phones. We train them every day about the new information and all throughout the day about new information that was coming down. And we were able to successfully route our community to our center to hear information specifically from our community about how this particular event was affecting them. Those are things, again, through our partnerships with our municipal partners and others that we're able to accomplish here in Williamson County, and we're very blessed to have the relationships that we do. So when we talk about preparedness, you are servants, right, in your community. Everything that you stand for has to do with servants. But before we help others, there are a few things that we have to do, and that's first of all to prepare ourselves. If we're not prepared, we're ineffective in helping other people. So we can't always prevent disasters, but we can be prepared for them. You are not effective, obviously, in helping others unless you prepare yourself. So the first thing we want you to do is stay informed. Find ways to receive notifications about emergencies that are happening in your community. And we encourage you to have at least 3 different ways in order to be notified, because let's face it, communications are not as always reliable. And when one goes out, and as an example, in our National Weather Service, within the last few events that we've had, several of the, for your weather radio, if any of you have a weather radio, the tower sites have been off during some of those severe weather events. And so you wouldn't have received notifications like you would have expected to. So again, having other reliable methods of being notified is important. Plan ahead. And I think Jill has put some information out on the table as well, that hopefully you picked up or you'll pick up on your way out. So I'm not going to go through all of these different things. But there are many different websites that you can go to, especially ready.gov, that shows you how to prepare for different types of disasters. And while many disasters have similar things that you can prepare for in a go kit, there are certainly other situations that require special planning. And so be anticipative of the types of disasters or emergencies that can affect you or your family, and prepare yourself and your family members for those events. Next is take action. Sign up for emergency alerts. Many of you may or may not be aware of that in Williamson County, we do have an emergency alert system that you can sign up for. And when you sign up for those, you can be alerted for special things that come directly from municipal or county governments. But we also have the ability to force notifications to you. So if there's some event and you haven't signed up, but we feel like it's imperative enough for you to know, we can force that notification to go through to you anyway. And we get those phone lines for whether it's a residence or a business or a cell phone, we get those numbers updated every month and are able to push those notifications out across our community. So sign up for those alerts if you haven't already. When you receive an alert, take action. Do something. Don't just ignore the alert. If the alert has the potential to impact you, do something. And of course, being prepared will teach you exactly what you need to do. If you can, find ways to help others during crises. That's what you do, right? As servants and as an organization, you want to help others and certainly help your family members. So we encourage you to find ways to do that. Look for those who are vulnerable in our population, especially that live next to you, near to you, and be sure that their needs are being met. And we're going to encourage you to join our VOED group, which is the main reason that we're here, that we'll talk more about in just a little bit. So we want you to get involved. Help prepare yourself, your family, your business, your community for all of these possible emergencies that can affect us. Ways that you can learn and participate are citizens academies. Mayor spoke about that earlier with Citizens Police Academy. There's a lot of different citizens academies out there that you can take part of to learn specifically more about your government, but also about how you can act as a private citizen. Volunteer. There's many ways that you can volunteer. There's host and attend a safety event. A lot of people live in neighborhoods I live on a dead end street in Thompson Station, Tennessee here. And it's very seldom that we interact as neighbors. We're on acre and a half lots. So if you don't want to see your neighbor, you don't have to see your neighbor. But there is opportunities for us to have and host neighborhood gatherings to where we can talk about different types of emergencies that may affect our community and learn about those vulnerable needs that exist just with our neighbors that we may not otherwise know. Also, communicate with others, have conversations with your neighbors. Many of you probably are on Nextdoor or something like that. There's so many ways to stay connected now and to learn about the needs of others. Specifically, why we're here today is to talk about VOAD. And VOAD stands for Volunteer Organizations Active in Disaster. And so when we look at the Rotary Club of Brentwood, and I was looking at your website, it's impressive that you've had a presence in your community since 1949. That's something to be commended as a group. Your Rotary International motto of service above self, and that was mentioned earlier by one of the persons that come up here. And reading your website, your values, your membership, and your passion for service, each one of these clearly align themselves with our initiative to have a local VOAD here in Williamson County. When we talk about VOAD, what does a VOAD do? Well, if we look back at those emergency support functions that we mentioned earlier, these are the 5 areas in which VOADs can really make a difference in our community. Through human services, whether it's sheltering or mass care, through feeding our population during times of disaster, donations or volunteers, animal housing and care, and recovery. Those are specific areas. I think Jill left a handout out front that shows many different things that a person in our community who needs help asks the VOAD to provide. And these are things that as a club and as a part of a VOAD group that you can help offer. So when we talk about VOAD, and again, looking at what you're already doing, Waverly is a perfect example of that. You're doing a food drive to help those who have suffered a disaster in their time of need, right? And so this is exactly what a VOAD is designed to do. So we look at a VOAD, it's open to civic organizations like yourself, religious organizations, nonprofit organizations, and corporate and business charitable partners. And so many of you may be business owners, or certainly you work for somebody. Consider your business being a part of the VOAD group, even if it's from a charitable donation standpoint. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. What are our goals as a VOAD group? Well, it's to increase capacity to provide more efficient services to victims of disasters. Better respond to disasters through cooperation, communication, coordination, and collaboration. Networking and sharing best practices with individuals and organizations active in disaster response. Reduce or eliminate the adverse effect of natural, technological, and human-caused disasters on the socioeconomic and physical environments through preparedness, mitigation, and education. And so, while you're a group that is helping in Waverly, there are many other groups that are doing the same thing, right? And oftentimes one group doesn't know what another group is doing. Oftentimes in time of a disaster, the first thing that people want to do is help, but they don't necessarily know how to help. So what they often do is they will either make a financial contribution, which is always good because that allows the VOAD groups that are working in those communities to buy exactly what's needed for the right people at the right time. And then there's the other group that decides it's time to clean house, right? It's time to get rid of things that I don't need anymore because this community or these people may need it more. And so they will oftentimes donate used clothes, or they'll say, well, I've been wanting a new living room suit. Let me donate my existing living room suit and buy me a new one. The problem is the people that are being donated to just lost their house. And while they may need furniture, they first need a roof over their head because they have no place to keep this furniture. And so organizations like emergency management agencies start getting inundated with contributions and donations from the community that can't be used. And now we're responsible for finding a place to store those resources and or get rid of those resources. And we create what's called a disaster within a disaster. So again, talking about being prepared, learn how you can be of assistance to your community. Understand the needs that are out there. And I'm sure someone from this club did some homework before you decided to do a food drive for Waverly. But food is something they're going to need for a long time. And so when it comes to disasters, emergency services are only typically there for a few days. And once the emergency is over with, it becomes the responsibility of the community to help get them back together. Now, certain disasters will warrant FEMA to come in and provide assistance. And I don't want to talk about FEMA positively or negatively today, but let me just say that from my own experience in the room here, it's not an easy task dealing with FEMA. And FEMA is never made to make you whole. If you do qualify for federal assistance, you're only going to get a small amount of federal assistance. But before you get any federal assistance, the first thing you're going to have to do is apply for a small business administration loan. And if you apply and you say, well, I'm not a business, this affected my house, it doesn't matter. That's the mechanism that the federal government uses to provide assistance for disaster survivors when that hits. We'll talk more about that in just a minute. So VOAD is an association of volunteer organizations, and how it works is, well, the VOAD group will meet together a few times a year. That's not everybody in this club, but if you were a member of the VOAD group, one or two of your members would participate in these calls that happen on a regular basis. They coordinate resources during times of disaster. They offer services and resources during a disaster under your own direction and under your own resources as your resources allow. So being a part of the VOAD group does not obligate you to do anything. It simply informs you of needs that exist in our community. And if you have the capacity and the resources and the willingness to act, then you act and you coordinate those efforts with the rest of the group. Maintain your own identity and independence. This does not take away the fact that you're your own club. You have your own autonomy. So you do whatever you want, whenever you want, however you want, but you're a part of a much bigger group providing a coordinated service. It deploys more efficiently. It avoids duplication of resources, and you can help with manual labor, financial support, or administrative tasks. When we think about disasters, we always think about huge disasters. And in all of my presentation, I've mentioned the word disaster, but the core group of individuals that started together to start on this initiative, to form this VOAD group, realize that there are events that happen in our community that to one household is a disaster. A house fire that takes away all of your belongings in your home is a disaster for that individual. And so we want to be a VOAD group that not only works in the major disasters, but we want to meet the community needs even in individual disasters. And again, that's something that the club could decide at the time the need was presented of whether it wanted to participate or not. We're using a program called Charity Tracker. And Charity Tracker is a program offered by the United Way that's free to members of the VOAD that allow every need that exists within our community that has been made known goes into that system, and every VOAD member can look at that and find out, is this something that we can help with? And if so, we're going to take the lead on that, and it lets every other member of the VOAD group know that it's no longer a need that needs to be met. So there's two different types of membership. There's full membership and there's affiliate membership. And full membership are for groups that have a dedicated disaster response program. I'm not going to read all of those things for you in the interest of time, but we can provide you a handout for those. And the Rotarian Club, I'm certain, on the national level, has a disaster response program. It's also made as an affiliate member for those who don't have a disaster response program per se, but certainly can help in times of disaster. Whether that be small or great, it doesn't matter. All of us pitching in together makes a huge difference on our community. I'll close by just sharing a thing about the last declaration that we had here in Williamson County. March 25th, April through April 3rd of 2021, there was a flood event that came through our community that impacted Brentwood and mainly Grassland, so the north part of Williamson County. Public assistance, meaning things that the government suffered, we were eligible for public assistance as declared by the president. In Brentwood alone, there was damages to Manley Lane and Heathrow Boulevard. There were 5 culverts that were damaged. damage to fencing in Deerwood Park, damage to Tower Park's drinking fountain, and 59 tons of debris that was affected by this disaster removed within the city of Brentwood. The total cost to do all of that was $80,000. The federal government and the state government reimbursed $70,000 of that, leaving the municipal government only responsible for about $10,000. To be eligible for disaster declaration at the federal level, I just want to give you some idea. In Williamson County, they base it on a population of 247,726. And we must demonstrate a per capita loss of $1,099,903 before we will ever be considered for federal assistance. $1,099,000. Now, that is not only losses that are sustained to the government, but it's also the manpower and the resources and the fuel and those kinds of things that we use in responding to those disasters. In addition, the state has to have a combined loss of $12,232,186, of which our loss contributes. Every county's loss contributes to the state. Once those two thresholds are met, then federal assistance can come in. There's a whole different criteria for individual assistance. That's when you as a homeowner or a business owner receives federal assistance. And that's way too complicated to begin to even explain. And I think it's even too complicated for them to understand how to administer at certain times. But rest assured that most of the events that happen within Williamson County do not receive individual assistance. And so a VOAD group here locally is important. And we have the financial means, we have the population base, and we have the willingness as a community to meet the needs of our community during times of disaster. And so again, I'm here today to respectfully request that you consider becoming a part of our VOAD group. And we would look forward and be grateful to working with you in the future to help meet the needs of our community. I'm happy to entertain any questions that you have. Yes, sir.
Interesting presentation. Just what is the cost of membership or the threshold to be a part of this VOAD group? I'm involved in a lot of different things, and some of what I do is involved in emergency response work. So I'm curious about that a little bit.
There is no cost to be a member of the VOAD group.
Do you deal with say if the electrical grid goes down, and what do you do?
Yes, sir. So we're going to coordinate closely with both NES and Middle Tennessee Electric, depending on which grid is affected, to understand the depth and breadth of the outage, whether it's something that they can do on their own or whether they need additional assistance in order to do that. And then we're going to message our community. We're going to get the word out to our community the best we can to understand the level of outage that we have, how long that outage is anticipated to last, and what actions are being taken to restore that. If it's something that they require a shelter, for instance, power is going to be out for days on end, we're going to establish shelters throughout our community for those who might need a place to go where power is available. And if power is not available, then we're going to bring in resources to power up specific buildings to be able to do that. Every school in Williamson County, we have about 50 plus schools in Williamson County. Every one of those schools can be used as an emergency shelter. Unfortunately, none of them presently have an emergency generator. And we're working through some hazard mitigation programs to try to get some federal funding to be able to do that. Nevertheless, it doesn't mean that they still cannot be used as a shelter, because we can bring in portable generators and be able to at least restore power to the areas that we would be using for shelters. We also may have to feed people. And in Williamson County, out of those 52 plus schools, we can feed about 25,000 people per meal. And they're reimbursed by the federal government to be able to provide that food free of charge in times of crises. And they have 12 delivery trucks that we can deliver that food out to our community in times of need.
So Todd, we give our speakers as a gift for speaking to our club, a pen that has our club logo on it. And we ask that you sign a book about Rotary's values that we read to first graders. And when we read the story to the first graders, we will tell them about the speaker who signed the book.
Oh, thank you so
So
much.
thank you so much. This
Thank
was
y'all
very
for-
helpful. So the Martin Center is about to host an art show, and we do not need to put away the chairs and tables today. We just need to clean up our stuff.
If you can stay an extra few minutes to help us with real quick room clean, that would be great.
Yes. Great. And if there's nothing else for the good of Rotary, we are adjourned. I don't think they wanted.